Today's guest is Michael Fortinberry, co-founder and COO at Protiv. All right, Michael, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, of course. I'm excited to be here, Tats. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to
Awesome.
learning a little bit about you too along the way. You got a cool background.
Yeah, thank you. But you like exercise. It sounds like you like the outdoors. But I noticed, and I have to go there. I noticed sailing on your
Oh, yeah.
background. I did a little bit of sailing when I was younger, but tell me about that.
Yeah, all over. And for anybody who's listening, it's never taken that, moment to get on a sailboat, feel the wind power up the boat, the engine turns off, and you realize that, you know, the momentum of the earth and the wind and all this energy is kind of what's taking you, and it will take you as far as you want to go. Right, it's not, you're not limited anymore, by your skill in the type of vessel, et cetera, but if you wanna travel to islands or cross oceans, all of that power is now there,
Yeah,
and people are like, "Oh, it'd be so hard." It's not really that hard, you have to learn some things like anything else, but
yeah.
once you do that, it unlocks an entire way of travel that's very unique. If you've flown into an airport on an island and you've gone through customs and settled in, I promise you the difference of finding that island in the ocean and sailing your boat to it, anchoring and walking across the beach with your passport in hand to the little custom shack to get it stamped, nothing else like it.
There you go. Yeah, I sail small boats and it's fun. I think it teaches you to be adaptable.
It does. You have to problem solve. Everything is a little slower, right? So you just relax, and it's just an amazing way to see the world.
Yeah. I mean, I look at your background, some themes seem to pop out, technology, sort of maintenance with sort of these properties.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of, it looks like you kind of like go in and out of technologies and stuff like that. Tell me about that. So I'm
Yes.
especially interested in PPG. That's kind of
Yes,
cool.
technology, real estate, construction. I kind of speak all three languages, and there's a interesting space that exists within those three worlds. In that intersection. Neither construction nor real estate have traditionally been very tech forward, very old school industries. And so when you apply tech, either because you're building it or because you're working in there trying to implement it, you run into unique challenges and thus opportunities. So we found that we could move the needle forward, whether it was in multifamily management or in construction, by applying technology intelligently. And so I've kind of made a space there over the last 25 years or so, 30 years. How long has it been? Getting old. So, in finding that way to help those verticals leverage each other better.
Yeah. I mean, walk me through some of the opportunities for improvement in those areas.
Well, I think if you look at construction as a broad category, right, which encompassing everything from pre-con, materials, execution, but permitting even. There's all these moving parts, right, to deliver this finished thing. And the world needs 13,000 new buildings every day. Right, and so in theory, right, we've got this huge man, and that's not fixing anything we have. That's just building new stuff, right? So you've got this opportunity to deliver a lot of volume of output in an industry that is, by some measures, actually getting slower at delivering said output.
Walk me through it's getting slower part. What's
Yeah.
slowing things down?
So now some of the reason that we're possibly slower, at least flat in terms of productivity in construction, some of this is for a good reason. We're more environmentally sensitive, we're more safety oriented, right? We're thinking through some things. We're more deliberate about the way we build certain things today than we were, call it 1960 or 40. So yeah, you think how long it might take to build the Empire State Building or the Brooklyn Bridge today. Man, they threw those things up quick, right? You could never do that now, but we also probably wouldn't lose, all the the workers along the way, right? So we're safer and we're better, but it has not we evolved to the point where we're faster per se. And so we think that productivity in particular is a challenge and that our industry's got to get its arms around. it's being tackled quite a bit at the general contractor, big construction level, right? So you go to Skanska, they've probably got a army of people dealing with tools and tech and AI and robots to BIM and 3D twins and all, there's this evolution there that's pretty cool. The flip side is that's 500,000 out of the 2 million people or however many there are construction. The other 1.5 million are working by the hour out at the job site. And they don't have any of this stuff, right? There's no robot putting those shingles on, right? It's just not happening. It's not going to happen anytime really soon, right? Mrs. Smith water heater is not getting replaced by a robot in my kid's lifetime, right? There's still this underlying human element that is disconnected from, I don't know what we're trying, the effort, the investment that we've been making into getting faster, better, smarter. It's a bit separated from the 4/5 of the people who actually just get paid by the hour at the job.
Got it. So, part of the, um, like you said, 4/5, like what part of it is working? What's not working?
So there's a lot not working actually at the moment, and it's we'll start with the demographic trends. If you look at the workers that we have, and I've seen this quoted a few different ways, all of it bad. So I've heard that you're losing for every 7 people that retire, we get 2 into the space right now. I've heard one that said for every 5, we get 1.5. I don't know exactly what the number is, but all of that is bad, right? We're losing our most experienced folks out the end of their careers, and we're not getting very many new folks in. So there's big problem number one when it comes to the people in the field. The other part is we have a misalignment. This is one of the things our software works on, which we'll talk about more later. But there's a misalignment of what matters to the workers versus what matters to the company. So you start to think about things like production, quality, safety, teamwork, communication, all these things that actually do, that's what drives a construction project or any company really forward. And yet we compensate people on hours. Now remember, I didn't mention time in that other equation because time isn't what drives an organization forward. But that's how we compensate the space, the all the labor that does this work. It's a function of, it's just a calculation of hours. Well, there's nothing in that that's positive. So unlocking that is another a big piece. And I really feel like there's there's a push towards systemization, and that is helping us make some types of construction simpler, but some of those systems are actually really complex behind the scenes. So the type of products that are being developed require a different level of skill in some cases to implement. Some of them might be, for example, they've got uh, now you can build an apartment building out of cubes, where they're basically bringing in prefab cubes that are being bolted together. It's a different set of skills to tile that together. You may not have learned that as, when you went through your apprenticeship as an electrician. It's just a different set of things that have to happen because now you're bringing in a box on a crane and setting it down on the fourth floor with all this stuff in it already. Very interesting, different dynamics taking place. Going to require some new training as well.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me about implementing something or starting something on a larger company, and then we can talk about. I think your one now is a bit more of a startup, or any of the startup ones that you've sort of had your hand in. So, I mean, I just noticed PPG. Like, what could you tell me about that? Doing something with the
Yeah.
bigger company. What problem were you trying to solve, and was resolved?
So PPG, it was an interesting um, exercise that PPG went through when I think there was this drive to say we need to be a bit more tech forward company. And they acquired a technology that was designed for estimating and quoting and executing painting work in residential spaces. We were kind of expanding it into some commercial work as well. The core idea behind the scenes was PPG's like, all right, we're manufacturing paint. And our painters, the people doing the work, Some of them are very sophisticated operators with marketing and sales and execution across the board, and some of them are just really good at painting, right? They're not necessarily the best business operations, marketing, sales. So Bob's painting may not know that AT&T needs all 12 of their locations in his town painted. There's no way he would know that. He's never going to be on that bid list. He's never going to get that work. So what the idea behind the PPG program was we would PPG as an entity would go to AT&T and say, "Look, we will get your location painted across the country," or Best Buy or anybody else, T-Mobile, and you don't have to find the painter locally, and you don't have to worry about the warranty side because we're going to control the whole thing end to end. So the deliverable back the to the client, and this it's large retailer, for example, is that you get a better execution on this large scale national work that you need done. Really, really smart. Now, PPG's value to their painters is, hey, you guys don't have to go find the work. We're going to give you the work. We don't employ painters. We're going to sub that work to you, but you don't have to go find it. PPG is going to make money on selling the paint, obviously, which is what they're very good at. But the other side is now they can drive work to their customer in some ways. So that was the kind of thesis behind that. I don't. I think there was holes in the idea that are you now competing with your customer in some ways, right? Some of that came up. I think that probably could have been overcome, but in the end, PPG kind of rotated back to let's just sell paint.
Yeah, for sure. Liability, who to select.
Fascinating, actually, if
Yeah,
folks listening out there have never made paint before, I was actually surprised. It's not overly complicated to make it. It is, I think, complicated to make it well and make it do very specific things. But basic paint, it's like, all right, because we went. I remember going to the lab and we made paint and we could put different things in it and have it perform differently. It was kind of fascinating watching that happen in real life. Being
yeah. That's
yeah,
kind of, it's always cool to talk to someone that's an insider because from the outside, I always thought that PPG was very good at color management. I know it's a big area, and they're very, very good at that. I think it takes a lot of complicated equipment to try to match paints and
it
stuff
does.
like that. So, and I know that PPG had a fairly good handle of that.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance, if you ever get a chance to go to the Sherwin-Williams lab, they have a room, and it's a big room, and it's a cooler, it's a giant cooler freezer. You go in, it's super cold, and in there are these racks of trays, and the little 3-inch wide trays. And every tray, you pull it open, and there's like thousands of little pieces of paper in there. Every one of them is a different color. And I'm telling you, there are just millions of these things. I can't imagine how many there are. And you can take them out and they go into a special room with a special light. And that's every formula that they have created for every color of paint since like, I don't know, I think the 70s or something.
Yeah,
Fascinating the archive there to store specific colors that you use. And the one drawer I pulled open was all white and it looked exactly the same to the eye. I looked at like the whole tray of white and nope, they're all different. Every single one.
yeah,
Fascinating.
sure. Tell me about startup land. What's been your experience?
Oh, so we founded a construction company here in New York City. We've had two of them here, but we started one about 7, 8 years ago doing large scale multifamily renovation work. And we grew quite a bit, over 130 people in the field. And in that world, we had high volume work, right? So we're trying to deliver renovation. Someone moves out of their apartment. We're going to renovate that apartment in somewhere between 3 days and 3 weeks, depending on the scope, and get that ready for the next person to move in. Bang, bang, bang. It's an interesting type of work because it's really schedule critical because someone is pulling up in a moving truck. They pre-lease those apartments. So they're not waiting for us to be done to lease. So I have to be done. Because you think about the drama if Becky shows up to move into her new apartment and there's still a bunch of dudes in there putting up closets. this is all bad, right? Cabinets still on. So I've got to be done, clean out on time. And because if I have to go back in with, I know it's occupied, it's just drama. Nobody's happy. So we were really strict. We got to be done on time. Also, has to be done right because Becky moves into a new apartment and something's not right. She's already stressed. New place, he's already stressed, and now I got to go back. Now my customers upset. So I got to do it right, and I got to be on time.
Yeah.
All right. So my carpenter, he doesn't care about either of those two things. He just doesn't. If I can yell at him and say, hurry up. But what I really wanted is for my carpenter to care as much as I did about do it right and do it on time. So they're taking about 10 hours to put the cabinets up. And if I could get it done in 8 hours in this one project we were working on, I could finish in one day and it would just work better on the schedule. So I got $40 an hour on my carpenter, like, hey, I got $400 in my budget for 10 hours. I'll give you the whole $400, but please be done in 8 hours. You can make more per hour. It turns out they can do it in about 6.5 hours. Because now all of a sudden they get all the money anyway. And so I'm like, what? I guess I'm a bad manager. I don't know. They have a different gear when it's their money. So we grew and we started iterating on that idea, and that idea turned into, as we grew into Excel and into software eventually, and really changed the trajectory for us in terms of the way that we could deliver our product to our customers at high quality, on time, and our employees loved it. It shifted the culture of the company because now everybody's pulling together. Now, here's one for you, Tats. If I forget to order those cabinets, traditionally they're like, that's fine. I'm happy to wait around and not do anything. You know how upset they are when it's their money and the cabinets aren't there? Now Bob is in my office going, boss, we're gonna find somebody else if you can't get your act together and get those cabinets ordered. Right? They start to think different. They behave different. They communicate different. They work as a team different. All that stuff that I care about as an owner, quality, safety, production, teamwork, communication, all of a sudden it matters to them.
Got
Now
it.
I've got 130 people who care about that instead of 13. That was the shift in our organization that kind of led us down this road to building Protiv.
Yeah, for sure. What does it feel like? I mean, obviously, this started as an internal need, and it looks like you've been at it long enough to spin it off.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, I mean, it's a big enough task to be running one company. What, what does that process look like when you're kind of spinning off to something on the inside, from the inside?
Yeah, there was four of us at the construction company, and we kind of saw this coming. Like we're onto something, and part of it is that we tried to buy it. So we went to the market and said, well, we want to buy a system to manage incentive compensation for hourly workers. It seems a reasonable thing to Google, right? You tap that in and something should pop up. Nada. Like, it's like nothing comes up. And you're like, wow, nobody's built this before. This is kind of wild. So we had this where we're building our own. And then you wake up one day and you realize you can kind of do the math on the whiteboard. Like, no matter how many apartments in New York I renovate, it's never as big as if I get 5% of the contractors in the US to buy the software, right? There's a whole lot more zeros on that. And so, right, your wheels start spinning, you start envisioning islands and jet planes and all these kind of things. Um, so we set out, the four of us kind of split into two teams, and David and I kind of spun over to start Protiv full time. But it is a lot. It's a lot because you're putting a lot of pressure on your partners because now they're carrying the existing business. And David and I now have this unlimited amount of work in front of us. Nobody understands how hard it is to start a business from scratch. It is insane. It is that metaphor of you go from 9 to 5 to 24/7. It is so true. It's what we do. We work. We just work all the time. That's just the nature. You want to go down this road and build something from scratch, you better be forget work-life balance. What is that? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, there's a balance. It's pinned to one side, and you better be happy with that. The balance beat thing, the little thing,
Yeah,
it's pinned down on one side, and that's it. And that's okay. You think someone said the other day, you think Henry Ford had work-life balance? You think Elon Musk has work-life balance? I mean, no, that's just not. It's not the nature. So if you're building something out there and you're wondering, when this gets better, it doesn't. It's hard, but okay. So lean into it and enjoy it. It's fun.
yeah, for sure. Hey, look, you probably learned some very interesting thing as you're going through this process. If you had to go uh, back in time to when you started, like what would you have done differently? Not to say that you would have made any decision differently, but
Yeah,
if you're mentoring someone, what would you do differently?
I think people who are if it's also easier because I can look granular at the businesses that I've been a part of starting and say, "Gosh, I really wish we had done X." Not helpful to anybody but my posterity and biography. So, but I do believe that folks who are looking at starting a business need to understand that the people you put around you are probably going to define your success. There's You just simply can't do it all. And if you are hiring someone in a small company in the early stages, you better hire someone who already knows how to do that job better than you do. Like it is just the first 4 core people we hired into this company are amazing at what they do. They're so much better at what they do than I would be. They tell me what they're going to do. If I have to tell them what to do, I've hired the wrong person
Yeah,
because there's nowhere to hide. You cannot find a niche and bury yourself inside of an early stage company. So don't hire people that need to do that.
yeah,
You need to hire people that will push on their own and tell you what they're going to go do because they already know how to do it. It's most critical. People, people, people. I would you could say people is the answer to almost any question when you ask a business question. I mean, what is how do you get your, EBITDA up? People. I don't know. I mean, everything is people. It's always people. And
yeah.
uh, there's a there's a quote, Tom Peters quote. It's really good. It's you take care of your people, and your people take care of your product. Your product takes care of the customer, and the customer takes care of the profit. Well, I was like, oh, it's gonna take we're customers first. No, go take care of your people. You don't. Yeah, I mean, I still talk to customers. We're small, but come on, take care of your staff. They're the ones who are going to drive you forward. Sorry, I can get on my soapbox about that one.
No, it's just a reminder for others, and I mean, for me at least, it's just constant reminder to myself, right? Just never lose sight of that.
Yeah, we're in this push in our own company now to help some of our clients look at internal at their culture because when you launch a performance pay system inside of a company, you need to be prepared for the culture impact. And so much of the culture is driven off of the way you interact with your team and your people. It's one
Mm,
of the central elements to the whole thing. And so we're spending a lot of time helping our clients to look at what does it mean to be a good leader in a culture forward organization. You know how shocking the numbers are when people have studied companies with great culture and companies with bad culture and they compare them. It's stunning. Like the difference is 5.5x on revenue, 900% increase in revenue growth relative to their to peers that don't. I mean, it is the material difference. It should almost be the only thing we teach in business school.
mhm.
Everything else is kind of beside the point. Is you better get the culture right, which is a big function of how you communicate with your team, how you lead, how you put them first, all those good things.
Very cool. Yeah, great tips. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for running down all the different things. Well, anything else that come to mind in terms of lessons or things you pass on regularly?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything on getting inventoritis because, I feel like that idea that we get paralyzed a little bit and stuck in our own head about what we think we've created and solved, kind of the drink our own bathwater type of thing. It's funny because I looked through a lot of what you'd written and I was challenging myself that I don't have it, to make sure, so it's like, gosh, this is it's really, really good stuff. I can see falling into that trap. In fact, I have fallen into that trap. That's the other thing. I invented something once, this really cool idea, and it went nowhere. And I'm like, I know that I talked myself into it. It was a great idea, but it didn't mean it was ever going to be a real product. Right? And I thought it was fascinating. Where did that come from?
It's just, I used to run a company, like my business partner is an inventor, right? So, and early on, this was like almost 25 years ago, I knew I needed a mentor because right now there's a lot of information online, right? A lot more access to
Sure.
people. I had a friend that knew Peter, who invented, well, the ability to watch video on a computer. Sold it to Bill Gates, Windows
That's a good
Media
one.
Player.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think just being in that environment. Ultimately, one of the projects we did was we had a company which we helped launch lots of different products, and people would come at with us with very entrepreneurial ideas, and it's self-imposed torture, right? You're basically,
Nice.
you're doing volume on startup, right? And I think through that process, we just constantly saw sort of holes in my thinking, other people thinking, and just thought, well, how have people tackled this? And I started to look at that closely. And the earlier part of us looking at it was, hey, look, don't fall in love with your idea. And then the second part, which at the time I missed, is what you just mentioned, Michael, is the people, right? Right, you watch for yourself, but then you surround yourself with people, and then you just realize that many things that work don't look good in a book, right? But if it
Yeah.
works, then just try your best to understand why it works, and don't quite be just very curious about that process. Like we interviewed like global innovation expert, and you know, a lot of these charts now, they're not organized structures, right? Anyone can communicate with anyone, and you see certain types of people collaborating, good ideas get flushed out. And where I got to was, and Peter got to, is, hey, look, let's be open-minded on what that looks like, right? If you go and take a walk in the park on Friday at 8 o'clock, and that's how you get ideas. That's the way. I mean, Darwin had this routine where he'd wake up in the morning and walk around, and then at 4 o'clock he'd take another half an hour walk. And he was so committed to this process, he
Right.
created a walking path in his backyard, and he came up with 30 very substantial findings, right? That sort of defined his legacy. And that was his ideal performance state, right? So whether it's walking, whether it's taking a shower, whether it's hanging around certain people, it's not about productivity, it's about environment, it's about people, it's about getting the results. So not to get too hung up on something very organizational, and say, hey, look, when I came up with this idea, who's the first person I talked to, right?
Right.
What did
Right.
they say? And try to just kind of look at those situations and just be curious. And that's kind of the start of building a possible path where your win rate is higher than your lose rate, right? So
That'd be awesome. I know a lot of the venture capitalists that I talk to describe it's just so hard to tell the winners from the losers early on. Every founder is enthusiastic. Every founder's got, going to change the world, and yet their actual success rate of venture capital funded companies is about 1 in 10. So, we're talking about the ones that actually make it to the next level and convince
yes,
someone to write them a check. And even
yes,
after been written a big check, your win rate's only about 25%. So
yeah,
it's hard, and yet it's really awesome when you realize you've created something that's going to make a difference in
yeah,
some way. I know you created some really cool eco products for roofing, and it moves the world in a better direction, right? In some way, and I think that that's why a lot of us, you know, lean so hard into creating new things, is maybe
yeah.
it makes it a little better.
I love it. No, that's pretty much, that's our philosophy. My job is just to help. There's people way smarter than me that sort of move the needle on some of the stuff, but mine's just to, hey, what can I do to clear the path to, see the viability of something and, if appropriate, make it happen. So, well,
There's a
Michael,
there's so much unpacked here. I'm really, really grateful we got a chance to get together and talk.
all right. Well, thank you for coming on.